Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, Senator Thad Cochran asked the Food and Drug Administration to hold foreign catfish exports to the same high food safety standards U.S. growers must meet.
Mississippi State University hosts a global conference on battling world hunger.
In Southern Gardening, Gary Bogman sings the blues. Well, it's hard to find true blue flowers, but Gary knows where to look.
In the markets, China releases some of its cotton stocks, putting additional pressure on prices, while stronger finished cattle and calf prices are forecast before the end of the year.
In the feature segment, another Farm Week flashback, but this time more recent. We'll look back at the year 2012 in Mississippi and U.S. agriculture. Among the many things that happened, we had a hurricane scare in August.
Said it's supposed to be here Wednesday, and we like about 200 acres. So we're working harder trying to get it out.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
Mississippi's senior senator calls on the Food and Drug Administration to step up its inspections of foreign catfish coming into the U.S.
Leighton Republican Senator Thad Cochran made the comment during a U.S. Senate Agriculture Appropriations Subcommittee meeting. He addressed it to FDA Commissioner Margaret Hamburg. Cochran is the ranking Republican on the Senate Agriculture Committee. Cochran urged the FDA to work with its federal counterparts to implement a catfish inspection program that makes sure foreign imports are safe to eat. It should also hold catfish imports to the same inspection and food safety standards that U.S. catfish growers must meet. Cochran said many U.S. catfish farmers feel they are unfairly at an economic disadvantage compared to foreign importers. Catfish inspections are presently in the process of being transferred from the FDA to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. A 2011 Government Accountability Office report found that only 2% of the seafood imported into the U.S. is inspected. From 2002 to 2010, 482 shipments of imported catfish were found to have health and safety problems.
Mississippi State University is focusing on globalization as one of its strategic goals. As one tactic, MSU is increasing its participation in global initiatives to battle hunger. The university has even hosted a summit on world food security.
Mississippi farmers may not realize it, but they play an ever-increasing role in helping feed the world with each new growing season. The fact that a summit on world food safety and security took place in Starkville confirms that Mississippi and its land-grant university are important players in helping meet the need for more food.
This is a great opportunity for Mississippi State University to highlight and showcase the outstanding capabilities and resources that we have to bear to help address a critical need for our world, and that's the growing population of our world.
The need for farmers to be able to produce more food more efficiently will mean new research opportunities for Mississippi State. The administrator of the U.S. Agency for International Development says that his agency hopes to expand research partnerships with land-grant universities like MSU.
And we firmly believe what the World Bank found 5 or 6 years ago, that for every dollar invested in agricultural research, it repays about $26 over time. It is one of the absolute best investments we can make as a country and as a globe in helping to eradicate poverty, create a safer global environment, and create real economic opportunities.
Mississippi State is already collaborating with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organizations on issues related to food safety and nutrition. From Starkville, Mississippi, I'm Leighton Spann reporting.
What flower color is considered one of the most elusive in the landscape? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Blues Brother Bachman shows us some great plant choices that have true blue flowers.
Mississippi is known for the blues. For most gardeners, finding true blue flowers can leave them feeling blue. Even though blue flowers are hard to come by, they can be found. In previous Southern Gardening segments, we have shown some cool blue flowers. One of the most popular was blue butterfly plant, whose flowers actually resemble little blue butterflies in flight. Another plant with cool blue flowers is lobelia. This old-timey annual has the reputation of melting away in the summer heat, but not anymore. Lobelia Laguna Sky Blue is a heat-loving selection with powdery blue flowers. And look at this combination of techno-blue lobelia and golden yellow bidens spilling over the edges of this hanging basket. Lobelia flowers have an interesting shape with 3 petals pointing down and 2 small narrow petals sticking up. There are other plants that have blue flowers. Delphinium is a garden classic having iridescent blue flowers on long spikes in the spring. An unusual delphinium is diamond's blue, which produces loose sprays of flowers during the summer months. Another good choice is Mystic Spire's blue salvia that has spikes of deep indigo blue flowers. Blue can be an elusive flower color in the garden, but I know once you start using these in the landscape, you can sit back and enjoy the blues. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
He's a man of many talents.
He certainly is.
Leighton, blue butterfly bushes that we saw in the story, they do not require deadheading, and they're also described as deer resistant for those of you who live in that kind of situation. In the feature segment today, the year 2012 and in review for Mississippi and U.S. agriculture. The top story may not be the one you think. Time now for the markets with Leighton, and not long ago it was low water that had the upper Mississippi River shut, but now?
Now, barge traffic, believe it or not, actually suffering disruptions due to too much water, flood conditions in other words. Of course, all that rain first fell on farmland, and in the markets this week, planting delays due to weather are becoming a real concern for many analysts. Meanwhile, cotton slides back to early March prices, while the recent on-feed reports suggest changes in the nation's feedlots. Traders are indeed beginning to worry about planting delays this spring. Here in Mississippi, corn planting and corn emergence is definitely behind, but not as far behind as parts of the Midwest. Nationwide, only 4% of the U.S. corn crop now in the ground compared to 26% at this same time a year ago. Many analysts look at weather forecasts for the Corn Belt, and they don't like what they see.
I'm just about ready to hit the panic button on it now, because when you look at the 6 to 10 day forecast, Illinois is still got rain in the forecast. So when are they going to be able to dry out before May 15th? Iowa is still very cold. So when is their soil ever going to be able to warm up before May 15th? So there are these things. And there's also the consideration that the prices, when we're looking at corn, the prices for the September contract are 25 or 35 cents higher by the time you include basis. So the motivation to get planted early was very strong. And the window has pretty much been missed for planting corn that could be harvested in September and get those really high prices.
The cotton market, meanwhile, has been falling away from high prices. Analyst O.A. Cleveland notes that prices on the December contract are back where they were in early March. Pressuring the market this week has been both India and China releasing government-held cotton into the marketplace for sale to mills. Traders do say the drop in New York futures prices has cotton mills stepping back into the market to buy fiber, so the fall back in prices could actually help export sales. Analysts also note the slow planting mentioned in the previous story should be a supporting factor for cotton as we move forward. As for the rice market, futures prices are under pressure there from carryover weakness in corn and soybeans. Analysts think the upside potential appears limited despite good demand and continued good export movement of U.S. rice. As mentioned for other crops, again, rice planting running behind this year. Well, our trivia quiz this week deals with something you need to watch for this time of year in the outdoors, and that is snakes. Our quiz question, what snake accounts for the largest number of bites in the U.S. every year? Is the answer the rattlesnake or the cottonmouth, the bull snake, or copperhead? You'll find out the answer before the new Farm Week feature that's coming up.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar, and in the second part of the markets, late in span, we'll have Brian Williams commenting on forecasts for stronger finished cattle and calf prices by the end of the year. In the feature segment today, we'll look back at the year 2012 in Mississippi and U.S. agriculture. See if you remember what we remember.
I've got a lot of choices to make in the coming years, and I really want to make sure that I get it all right. I want to discover who I am, where I belong, what my dreams are. I want to find my hidden talents and see where those skills can take me in the future. I need leadership given today to help me make the right decisions tomorrow, and I have that with Mississippi 4-H.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. A cool season forage tour takes place Tuesday, April 30th. The location is the South Farm at Mississippi State University in Starkville. Hours are 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Small grains, annual and perennial clovers, tall fescue, and efficient nutrient management are on the agenda. They are serving supper, so please pre-register by Monday so they'll know how many to serve. A workshop on managing wild pig damage takes place Thursday, May 23rd in Natchez. The location is the Adams County office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service on Carthage Point Road. You'll learn about the habits of wild hogs as well as how to trap and control them. You'll also learn about their diseases and their potential impacts on humans and livestock. The cost is $30 including lunch, and you need to pre-register by May 15th. You can do that by mail or go to our calendar for their online link. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
We shift into the livestock markets now. A new cattle on feed report has been released since our last broadcast. Extension economist Dr. Brian Williams answered some questions about those new numbers and the beef sector in general Thursday morning. Brian, is the fact we have lower prices now for corn and other feed ingredients reflected in the April 19th report?
I think the feed prices do have a little bit to do with it, just because an increase or a decrease in feed prices is going to increase our demand. But I think more of it is attributed to the February placements being so low. What it looks like is producers just kept their cattle, their feeder cattle, for a month longer and then sold them in March, possibly because of reduced gains and those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Now, live cattle futures, some analysts calling that market kind of weak right now. Mm-hmm. What's going on there?
It is a little weak. There's two things that are playing into it. The big one right now, both of them have to do with demand. First of all, we have our weather. The cold, the wet weather has kept delaying the grilling season. And then on the flip side of things, we also have our demand with the economy, and the economy's been a little bit weaker than expected, and that's really hurt the demand as well. But on the positive side of things, I don't think that that's going to continue, just because our supplies are so tight that once demand picks up, we're going to see prices strengthen a lot too.
All right, now the export picture, what's that looking like for beef?
Considering the supplies are so tight, our exports are still fairly strong. We've seen it take a couple of hits from a couple of importing countries, one of them being South Korea. They're about 30% lower exports this year compared to last year, and then Russia has cut off imports altogether as well. So that's kind of what we're seeing in the export market, and because of this tight supplies, I think we'll see them kind of decrease over the course of the year.
And calf prices, any comment about maybe the outlook for that?
I think that calf prices are going to look strong going through the year. Again, I keep going back to the short supplies, the supply issues, and I think that's going to be the driver going through the year.
Fewer hogs are one headline out of the pork sector this month. Another one is that lower feed prices that we've already mentioned should bring hog producers into profitability soon. Analyst Alan Brugler provided this assessment of the situation there.
We have smaller slaughter numbers, less production. You get the barbecue season going and some other things. Right now we're struggling a little bit because the export market's not doing well. USDA started to report weekly pork export sales. The first week looked pretty good, 35,000 tons. Last week was in the teens. So the world market's saying we'd like to pay a little less for your pork, and once we get that to happen, then the market will go.
Before our feature story, let's stop by the trivia board for our answer this week, and it is D, copperheads. They account for the highest number of bites in the United States each year.
In our feature segment today, we look back at the year 2012 in agriculture. It was a year marked by drought, but fortunately not in Mississippi. It was also a year that saw major victories by animal rights supporters regarding hog and egg production.
Some would argue the drought in the Midwest and the Plains was the biggest story of 2012, but the story with the farthest reaching consequences may have concerned livestock production. 2012 may be looked upon in the future as a major tipping point. Under pressure from animal rights groups, major pork buyers and major pork suppliers announced various agreements that would end their production of swine housed in gestation crates. Gestation crates are metal enclosures used in intensive hog operations. Each pregnant sow is fed individually, and fighting for food between sows is eliminated. The crates, however, do not allow for much movement. Many restaurant chains, including McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Cracker Barrel, Hardee's, Sonic, and Denny's, announced they would phase out buying pork from pork producers who use gestation crates. Major pork producers, including Smithfield Foods, the nation's largest, Prestige, Hormel, and Kraft Foods, were among those who announced plans in 2012 to phase out the use of gestation crates. Kroger, the nation's largest grocery chain, and Safeway, the fifth largest, announced their plans to eliminate gestation crates from their supply chain. The way eggs are produced in the United States is also set to change. Major egg producers came to an agreement with the Humane Society of the United States to switch from conventional or so-called battery cages to enriched cages by the year 2029. The two agreed to sponsor the Egg Products Inspection Act of 2012, which is working its way through the Congress. The United Egg Producers, which includes Cal-Maine, said the joint legislative efforts were pursued to avoid disruption to interstate sales and to develop consistent national standards. Enriched cages have about twice the room per hen than battery cages. They also have different areas where the hens can perch, lay their eggs, and scratch. Livestock producers are concerned what else lies ahead in the future when the animal rights movement seeks to extend its gains. The drought was the national story that dominated the Ag News headlines in 2012. Characterized as the worst widespread drought since the 1950s, it hit the West, the Midwest, the Plains, Missouri, Arkansas, and north-central Georgia. The USDA estimates 80% of the nation's agricultural land and 60% of its farms were affected by the drought. 43% of the nation's farms were said to experience severe to extreme drought. Mississippi escaped the drought for the most part, although conditions were generally drier as you moved to the northwest. NASA says global temperatures for 2012 were the 9th warmest in 132 years of record keeping. 2012 was the warmest year on record in the lower 48 states of the U.S., smashing the old record set in 1998. The Weather Channel says 34,000 record highs were set compared to 6,700 record lows. 9 of the warmest years recorded have taken place since the year 2000. Mississippi's row crop farmers had the best of both worlds, good yields and high prices due to the drought. Mississippi set another record for farm production value in 2012, $7.3 billion. Poultry continued its traditional dominance with $2.5 billion, 34% of all Mississippi's farm production value. High prices and high yields helped push Mississippi soybeans past forestry to second place with a record $1.16 billion in farm production value. Forestry posted $1 billion in farm production value, up almost 8% from 2011. Mississippi corn came in fourth with a record value of $891 million. Cotton moved down to fifth with $397 million in farm production value, Acres lost to corn production and low prices fueled the downward slide. Cattle and calves saw a 39% increase in 2012 to a record $329 million in farm production value. Farm-raised catfish fell to 7th, down 23% to $165 million. Competition from imports and high feed prices are still causing farmers to exit the business. Hay came in 8th with a new production value of $145 million, wheat 9th, $134 million, rice came in 10th with $130 million in farm production value. In other national news, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced in January its intentions to close 259 offices and laboratories nationwide. After hearings were held, 11 of that number came from Mississippi. The closings did put a tarnish on the USDA's 150th anniversary, which occurred in 2012. It was also the 150th anniversary of the Morrill Act, which established land-grant universities in the United States. Mississippi State University was one of the universities picked to honor the occasion in June at the Smithsonian Folklife Festival in Washington, D.C.
Even though less people are working directly in agriculture today, we still serve that mission as well as broaden the scope of our mission to include benefits to all of society as far as economic development, health, youth and families, natural resources.
Mississippi's peanut industry expanded in the state with the announcement that the Clint Williams Company of Oklahoma would open buying stations in Greenwood and Clarksdale. Birdsong Peanuts of Georgia invested $3 million in its existing buying station at Aberdeen. There are now 3 companies buying peanuts in Mississippi. The expansion caused Mississippi's peanut acreage to jump 350% to 52,000 in 2012. Average yield per acre was a record 4,400 pounds, with an overall state record crop of almost 216 million pounds. Mississippi soybean farmers harvested a record state average yield of 42 bushels per acre. They planted almost 2 million acres with an overall crop of 82.3 million bushels, worth a record value of more than $1 billion. Mississippi corn farmers harvested a record state average yield of 165 bushels per acre. They planted 820,000 acres for grain and harvested almost 132 million bushels. Mississippi growers were worried that their great corn crop might fall victim to Hurricane Isaac in late August. Farmers rushed to harvest as much as they could before it made landfall. Fortunately, the storm did not cause widespread damage. The first clouds from Hurricane Isaac began to move over Webster County, Mississippi, early Tuesday morning. Grower Stan Rogers of Gore Springs, however, began stepping up his corn harvest schedule several days ago because Hurricane's mean lost yield.
Said it's supposed to be here Wednesday, and we like about 200 acres. So we're working harder trying to get it out.
Expected high prices for corn and soybeans caused cotton acreage to go down in Mississippi in 2012. 470,000 acres were planted, down 25% from 2011. The state average yield was 970 pounds per acre, with a total crop of 950,000 bales, down 21%. Corn and soybeans also stole acres from Mississippi rice in 2012. Farmers harvested a respectable 7,100 pounds per acre in 2012, but they only planted 130,000 acres, the lowest in 35 years. Mississippi cattlemen set a new record for farm production value, $329 million. The drought in other areas and higher prices and a bigger state calf crop helped to set the record. Overall, the number of all cattle and calves declined to 910,000 head at the end of 2012, off 2% from a year earlier. High feed prices and imports hurt the Mississippi catfish industry in 2012. Water acres declined to 48,600, off 5% from 2011 and their lowest point since the peak in 2001. Mississippi continued to advance its reputation in next-generation biofuels. Kior announced in May that it had essentially completed its Columbus, Mississippi plant and would begin the process of bringing it online. Kior uses wood chips to create what it calls renewable crude oil. A plant 3 times the size of the Columbus one is planned for Natchez. A big event was celebrated in early October. Farmweek celebrated its 35th anniversary on the air. Farmweek's first broadcast took place October 3, 1977. More than 1,776 have followed.
And you can watch this story again on the year 2012 on our Farmweek website, Facebook page, or YouTube. The website address is farmweek.msucares.com. Try out our Facebook page and give us a like if you wish. Facebook fans see our stories first on Fridays. So there you go. Looking back at the last year, we were so fortunate that we missed that drought.
Certainly were.
Just so fortunate. Normally we get the drought and they get the good weather, and we're the ones
just a flip-flop in
we're the ones that
2012.
usually come out on the short end of the stick, but not this year. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, their farm is one of the best known on the World Wide Web.
The Peterson brothers of Kansas made a video and it went viral on YouTube. Try more than 8,400,000 views.
Do an excellent job.
3,000 people participated in the recent open house at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Mississippi State University. They saw more kinds of animals than we can describe.
In Southern Gardening, see how some familiar plants gain a new look when they're made into trees. They can become heirlooms. This plant is 15 years old.
For the rest of the Farmweek crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.